Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wowhead Weekly number 243. 243 is actually a very interesting number for those of you guys who may remember. My first show here was 143. Perculia has been my co host the entire time, and she has been here since the very, very beginning. But for me, that means that we just hit 100 shows together, which is super cool, super exciting for us to have realized. And it went really well with all these art upgrades that we have just recently gotten through. So everything is extra special today. With that being said, we have some new things to talk about today. We have the second Afterlives show, the cinematic, the MALDRAXXUS one, which has to be discussed, of course. And we also have the new free Shadowlands mount, which a lot of people are talking about. The one where you get to vote for a specific art or mount type that you may want to see in the game, which is a special thing I believe Blizzard has never done before. But before we jump into anything, let me introduce myself in case you don't know. I am Annie Fuchsia, a full-time streamer on Twitch, playing lots of World of Warcraft and sometimes other games too. And my lovely co-host is, as usual, the one and only Perculia.
Perk. I run a Wowhead, so I oversee the guides and the news and the data mining and the tools. And I am joined by Brightpaw, who is on my lap, and he sometimes also has opinions on things. It is Labor Day here in the US, but we still wanted to bring the show to you because there's been a lot going on. Like Annie mentioned, there is the free mount and Afterlives MALDRAXXUS, and we've also had some pretty interesting lore bombs, like a book that could be written by a Dreadlord, and some more pre-patch dialogues, as well as Night of Spirits in Teldrassil. We also, Brightpaw, don't move. We also, will have a board game. Oh my god, Brightpaw. He just.
Like, that's it.
This is a great
That was the full
introduction.
intro. I'm gone now.
Yes. Oh my god. Well, we have this beautiful board game that I was sent to review, and I thought we could highlight some of the cool art on this show. Which Brightpaw may rejoin us for, because lots of parts you could nibble on, but the art is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I mean,
That is now 2 introductions in a row. Brightpaw has tried to sabotage my laptop and my leg. But yeah, why don't we start off by discussing the free Shadowlands mounts, and then we will highlight some interesting model updates, the cinematic, which I have a lot of thoughts on, the lore, and then, merchandise, and also a really cool beta key and hardware giveaway that Blizzard
yeah.
has hooked us up with.
Mm-hmm. I think it sounds like a great plan. I'll be pulling up the mount descriptions of the different ones that have been written by Blizzard. So these are the different mounts that are up for voting. We have the Wandering Ancient, the Soaring Spelltome, the Nerubian Swarmer, the Curious Caterpillar, and the Gooey Slime Saber. All of these have a description to them, and your role here, or our role here, is to vote for the one that we want to see in the game. They have been described, and we don't actually know how it will look exactly because, well, the art simply hasn't been done yet. It's all a secret. We don't know exactly how it's gonna look. But having said that, of course, there's been some creative people out there who have showed us some fan art to see how these mounts may perhaps look like. So maybe we should pull up some of those pictures
Yeah,
to.
they look really fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how creative people can be and also take, one prompt and go in very different directions.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people can speculate, oh, there's a slime cat in game, so maybe this mount will be green, or, we see the tree spirits in Darnassus, so this could be like that. But it's really cool to see how people put like saddles and how they position the human on them. And yeah, the art just keeps coming and coming.
Mm-hmm. Here we
So
see a
you
rough
could,
sketch. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. I was gonna say if you wanted to have them rotating, we can. I was gonna look and see who was actually in the lead, but yeah, go ahead and show the art first because this may influence how you want to vote. seeing how
True.
creative they are.
True. Yeah, so the previous picture was the fan sketch, which was a sketch on all of the different mount types. This one is a specific one for how the ancient might look like. We also have here we have a preview of how the spell tome, the book, how that
I think
might
it's
look
super
like.
cool how it's open. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like the flying carpet from Wrath. I think that's a fun looking animation.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
It's really good with mages, like how the artist has depicted.
You know, I think I'm gonna have to say that I am team book. Can we say that? Team book?
Yeah.
Or book
I
gang,
Team
maybe?
Cat, but
You're
then
team cat.
Brightpaw like stabbed my leg with his claw 5 minutes ago on the show. So I don't know. Maybe I'll be Team Tree because it's very like Night Elf Darnassus. So
Alright, so we saw the tree, we saw the book. Let's take a look at the cat then. This one here. So officially the name of it was, let me bring out the names again. Uh, the name
Gooey
was
Slime
the
Saber.
Gooey Slime Saber. With a description, from the slime pools of Plaguefall emerged all manner of jellied creature, including the sticky kitty. A slimy saber cat that's dripping with ooze. It's the kind of mount that you're going to want to wear gloves for.
Yeah, a lot of people were like this was an easy one to imagine because you can get a battle pet version as a Maldraxxus reward,
Yes,
and there are little cats around the zone. So a lot of people assumed that this mount would be a big slime kitty.
exactly. So this pet is a model that already exists in the game, so the speculation is that the mount will look somewhat familiar, probably a little bit more detailed, but the basic idea is probably in this cat. We also don't really know what color it would be. I mean, it could be assumed that it's going to be a similar color to this as well, but we actually don't really know.
I mean, if it was that color, it would be cute because then your like baby battle pet could match
Yeah, then
the
they could
mount,
match
and
each other.
people like mount and pet
Sure.
combos.
Mm-hmm.
Like Brightpaw and the Mystic Rune Saber. No, not you, Brightpaw. The in-game Brightpaw.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I'm definitely Team Cat, but I can see why other people are like, man, we've got so many cat mounts in game. We have a flying cat, we have a spectral cat, we've got like
Mm-hmm.
a purple cat, we have a pink cat. We have a cat that changes colors. We have a tiger. So I can see why people maybe want other things, but I think the cat is cute.
I think it's okay to be team cat all the way. I think that's respectable perk, so don't worry about it. We also have the caterpillar, which I did see some people in the chat mentioning this. There it is. The
This is the one
curious.
that's inspired by Mop, Miss
Yes.
Pandaria.
Yes. That's the curious caterpillar. Let me bring out the text again so we can read about it. A curious caterpillar found its way to the heartland in Valley of the Four Winds one night and gorged itself on the oversized vegetables. The Pandaren of Half Hill awoke the next morning to find the crops half eaten and an enormous lumbering caterpillar among them. Too large to become a butterfly, this friendly worm is just the right size to train as a mount. This probably means it wouldn't fly either, right?
I mean, it could. Caterpillars can become butterflies, so
But
maybe it could sprout wings.
but the fact that it's mentioned, too large to
Yeah.
become a butterfly.
It would
This
be really
friendly
funny if
worm.
it could fly. I
It
mean,
would be, yeah.
we have the unicorn mounts that can fly in Shadowlands.
True.
That would actually look really hilarious. It's like this like fuzzy, like fat bug just
Mm-hmm.
floating in the air. That could be funny. I mean, it wouldn't like make aerodynamic sense, but it could be interesting.
Yeah. It could be interesting. Hmm. And the last but not least is the Nerubian Swarmer. And we have a few different models here that people
Yeah.
have submitted. This is one version of it. We
Yeah, this one
have.
is a bit controversial because there is a battle pet called an Arubian Swarmer, and it's cool, but it's like more simplistic, and a lot of people are like, oh, like wouldn't it be cool if I could, ride around on a Crypt Lord or a Nubarak or
Mm-hmm.
one of the more armored Nerubians. So people are curious if it will be literally the in-game NPC with the name or if it will be more fantastical.
Mm-hmm. I think the fact that they're putting so much, I guess, attention on this with having the vote system and everything, I do think that they will put a lot of emphasis and effort into these mounts. I do think they will
I
all
also
look
wonder
special.
if they'll end up doing designs for all 5, but the other ones will be shop mounts. I could see that happening.
Hmm.
Because this is also a very interesting
See.
marketing strategy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this was so much traffic for us, and there's been 100,000 voters on NA alone.
Oh wow. So which one is currently in
So
the lead? Or do we not
on
know?
NA, it is. Oh, that's weird. Their website is finally working. So their forums have crashed a lot because it's been so in such high demand. And I
I've
voted,
noticed. Mm-hmm.
but now it's like not letting me go
Mm-hmm.
back and see my vote. It's like I'm in this weird loop where it's like you need to vote to see that, oh, you already voted, you can't see it. But when I checked last, the tree was in the lead.
Okay.
And hopefully, if this goes
Someone in
again.
chat
Oh yeah,
also says the
Wandering
tree is winning.
Ancient
Mm-hmm.
33%, Gooey Slime Stamper 21, Caterpillar 19, Spell Tome 17, Nerubian 10.
No. Why does nobody
So
want the spell tome?
I mean, I guess like it's very Dalaran Mage. Like
Yeah.
I think the idea is that when people picture the tree, they remember the vehicle quest where you're riding around on the top of a tree, like stomping things, in the quest leading up to Teldrassil. So they probably think it would have a unique animation, and you'd be higher up than other players, and the silhouette will be different. While if you're flying around on a spell tome, it could be like the mage disc or the flying carpet in animation and style.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then the cat, it's like, oh, it's a cute cat, but we have so many cats. And
Mm-hmm.
then like the caterpillar is a novelty, but it's a caterpillar.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Nerubian, I think people are concerned. It could be plain, or some people are just scared of spiders, so they don't want
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
hated the Mad Merchant spider. They don't want another spider.
Yeah. Yeah. I think all of those make sense, and I think I'm probably biased because I love this sort of Dalaran esque style
Yeah.
of things. And I know I play a warlock, but I think I'm somewhat an actual mage, so my heart speaks to the spell tome. But seems like we may not be winning, sadly. Seems
Yeah,
like
so
the
I
other
think
ones are
that they're all
winning.
going to make it to like the shop in some form, or maybe they'll
I
be
really
like,
hope it's not the
oh,
shop though, because like
yeah,
imagine, because there's a lot of people who may not be able to afford the shop mounts or may simply not want to support them or anything like that. And
it could be
if
gold,
it could be what?
like the like gold, like the Azeroth chopper, like the
Yes,
winning faction
yeah,
got it for free,
yes,
and then the other faction had to buy it from a
yeah.
vendor for gold.
Yeah, I think I'd rather see that because if it's on the store, it feels a little bit like people might have invested into this because it's a poll, right? So people go
Mm,
in and study the different mounts, and maybe they even get attached to one of them, but then theirs doesn't win, but then ends up
yeah,
being something anyways, which can be exciting. Like, oh my god, I got my spell tome after all. And then it's like, ah, it's a store mount. Then it's a bit like, I don't know. It feels
yeah.
like
I
a little
like
bit
the
of a
gold
punch.
idea.
Yeah, I think the
The
gold
only
idea is
thing
better.
that I would say is that the choppers were a little weird because you had to be playing at the time to get the free chopper, but now
And then
anyone
it
can always
disappears,
buy
right?
the loser chopper. And you don't want this to be the same thing, like, oh, like you can buy the loser mounts all the time, but the winning free one, if you
Maybe
weren't
they will
playing
make it
in
like that.
Q1. Yeah. So hopefully they do that. Oh yeah, if you missed the details, the voting ends mid-September, and this will be added to everyone who has purchased Shadowlands, your mount journal, in Q1 2021. So that's between January and March 31st.
Yep. So, guys, go in there, vote for the spell tome or the
No,
cat.
vote for the cat.
Team cat is okay. Team spell tome is better. No. Just go ahead and vote for whichever mounts that you would like to see yourself. The more people vote, the more fun the whole thing becomes.
I
Uh,
think this is a very interesting like community marketing strategy on Blizzard's end because it was super popular and like people are feeling very passionately about this, and
Yeah,
it's mostly
exactly.
has seemed like they're passionate but in a playful way. Like they're being creative with the art, they're making little cute, vote for this slogans.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems very positive, high energy. So I think I wouldn't want everything to be decided like this, but I think it's cool they are trying something different and it's gotten a fun reaction like this.
Wait, is there a separate vote for NA and EU?
Yeah, but the votes will be tallied together.
Oh, okay, okay. Because I
Um,
just saw
yeah,
a
that would not be
comment.
good if it's like, oh, you must
What if we get
vote
different
on
ones?
these servers in order to get the other free bound.
Yeah. Hmm. Interesting. Where do we vote? Yeah, let's get a link up for you guys.
I think if you go to the either post linked in the notes, the NA and EU should be linked. Do you want me to add them to the notes, Annie? The direct links?
I just linked the Wowhead article. I'm
Okay.
sure they can find it there.
Yeah. We try to make it obvious with the nice like little button borders around it.
If you have trouble finding the button, you can let us know.
Yeah.
If I have two accounts, I can vote twice. I have no idea how it works actually. Is it account
Yeah, we're
based?
not we're not going to endorse vote manipulation.
No, that's
So,
true.
yeah.
Yeah, don't do that. Yes.
Like I made 10 accounts. I paid, $60 for every account just so I could upvote this one mount 10 more times. Like no, don't do
I
that.
want the spell tome to win, so I'm gonna make 10,000 accounts just to
Yep.
make sure that one wins. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe don't do that. Probably not a good
So,
idea.
but yeah, really fun news.
Yeah,
Hopefully we see
little
more
fun thing.
creative things like this from Blizzard.
Indeed. Definitely
So,
a nice thing
in
for
more
us.
serious news, we had
Hmm.
Afterlives Maldraxxus release on Thursday, and there is a lot to discuss with this. Maybe not as much or in a different direction as the Bastion one, but there was a lot packed into it.
Hmm.
So it was shorter than the Bastion cinematic, but it's still pretty long. So I don't know if you want to like play the whole thing on the screen. But yeah, why don't we start off like what stood out to you from this cinematic? Like, did you like it? What did you think of it?
I felt like I wanted to. I think with knowing that it's going to be about Draka, I was expecting a story that was a little bit more on maybe giving us a bit more insight into Thrall and maybe Duratan and
Hmm.
kind of like I guess family relations. And the cinematic did kind of start that way, but then it kind of took a turn and became more about Maldraxxus, which I guess is the point. It is the title of the whole cinematic as well. But in a way, it felt a bit more not so much into a peek into explaining things in the past, but more focused on her in Maldraxxus. So I thought that was a bit different than what I was expecting. And I'm a little bit sad that we didn't get to see a bit more on Thrall instead, to give us a more like personal perspective there somehow. But it was still well made and spooky, spooky and looking good, of course. And
So,
yeah, that was like my general impression of it. What did you
yeah,
think
I
of it?
mean, I had a similar thought of like, you know, Draka is someone who, if you've played the game, we haven't really encountered her. We encountered her alternate version on the Horde side in Warlords. So Alliance players are totally in the dark, and Horde players sort of not really interacted with her very briefly. So I think it's cool that Blizzard took a character that maybe fell into, dead mom, not much, character development stereotype and tried to really expand her and show that, she just had a life besides, being a mom that died. But I do think that it could have benefited from the 2 extra minutes that the Uther cinematic got because a lot of people are just like, she didn't really seem to have her own personality. Like this could have been any female character that, died, had adversity, trained, and rose through the ranks. And I think it would have been cool if we had that
That's
extra
a good
time
point. Mm-hmm.
to see more of her backstory from the books.
Mm-hmm.
Like we learn in a book that she was considered weak and she was left outside by herself to hunt without any knowledge of how to hunt. And she trained herself to survive in the wild and succeed at hunting. And if we saw a little flashback of that, I think it would have strengthened the montage where she learns, she's dead, this land's weird, she's learning how to fight and become a rogue, how she's again doing something she is not natural at and then becomes really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and likewise, we learn, in the books and other games that Gul'dan's Shadow Council, and they're all working with the Burning Legion, they were behind her murder. So it's poetic justice that she is now fighting against the Burning Legion, but you would need to read the book to understand that parallel. And
Mm.
I think that, you want to like show, it's like show, don't tell with cinematics. And if you read the book, you'd be like, oh, well, this is a cool parallel to this thing that happened off screen. But for a, new player, I think they needed to show some more of these, like, incidents from her past to strengthen the current narrative.
Hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I think it
yeah.
is. I think it is a good point with people not being very familiar with her, and I think that could have made it interesting if in those in that extra time, extra minutes, maybe show a little bit more with the personal relationships in her actual life, because it felt like it was a very short part of the introduction of the afterlives, and then that was it. Then it was more focused on the after. Well, it is called afterlife, so it makes sense. So it's more focused there, which I guess is fine and it makes sense in the grand scheme of things. But it's just interesting to see the personal relationships of her when we haven't really seen that much of it. I
If you
guess
don't
is the way of it.
experience her in the game, you need to build up that backstory so there's more like character growth in the actual cinematic. Like we know who Uther is.
Mm-hmm.
We know like that he's this paladin. We know that he died at the hands of Arthas. We know that he trained Arthas. We see his ghost like really frequently, like in Icecrown and all these places. So we have a sense of what he's like. And it was dynamic seeing him go from trying to do the right thing to, unsure if he's being consumed by vengeance. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that it would have been cooler if we had built up more of Draka's personality so we could see how she had, like her own character growth.
Mm-hmm.
Like this felt more like, oh, she joins the afterlife and now she is being badass and killing things and spikes. And this character we met for a minute has now died. Like it didn't resonate as much as, Uther and Arthas. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that building her up more would have, made a little more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we should discuss the presence of the demons, which I think would have been
Oh yeah.
another angle. Like I think it's a really cool lore revelation, but I think if there was a little more buildup, um, it would have landed better. As I'm sure you all know, people noticed that the building Draka infiltrates looked really similar to Harbinger's Illidan, and people wondered if that was a mistake or intentional. And we were always pointing out that, hey, Blizzard is not going to accidentally like reuse art with no reason. And look, there's other shots that are new of, the Felguards close up. And eventually the director confirmed that Draka, left the Shadowlands and was infiltrating the Burning Legion. And that's like super cool and like twisting lore. That's awesome. But if there was a few more seconds of showing, like Draka infiltrating other worlds or a flashback again to like her defying Gul'dan, like showing that she had beef already with the Burning Legion, I think it would have left like less people uh wondering because it was a
Mm-hmm.
little jarring suddenly being like, oh, like they're demons, like that, wasn't really built up with foreshadowing in the
Mm-hmm.
cinematic as much.
And lore-wise, there's a lot more question to this, right? Because from what I have understood, and
Yeah.
maybe you can dive into this a little bit more, we're not really
Yeah.
expecting to find demons in the Shadowlands. Because when
Right.
when demons die, they end up in the twisting nether. And how, if these are demons in Shadowlands, how did they end up there? And then more
So
questions
what
arise from that, right?
Yeah, so the director confirmed this again on Twitter, which
Mm-hmm.
ties into the point of, do we need people confirming things on Twitter and books to have this cinematic have the best impact, or should this all just be in the cinematic?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the he confirmed that she left the Shadowland,
Okay.
which is like, whoa, so
She
like
left the
where else have these
Shadowlands.
been going?
Yeah.
Like to me that could have used a few more like strategically epic looking cinematic moments
Were
if
we
she
supposed to
flat out left
understand
the
that from the
Shadowlands.
cinematic, or was it meant to be a bit hidden?
I don't know because when we rewatched it there were a few hints. So when we looked at the Harbinger's Illidan cinematic again,
Mm-hmm.
there's a few wide shots of the demon hunters going in, and the land is very like desert, barren, orange. And
Mm-hmm.
then when we have like the wide shots in the Draka cinematic, we see that
We see
it's
trees
green
and mm-hmm.
and there are trees. So, like, you could infer that she went there, years earlier.
Yeah.
But I think that Maldraxxus is known as the protector of the Shadowlands. They fight against many threats. And then, we know that the Burning Legion was responsible for the Lich King. They took Frostmourne and the Helm of Domination from the Maw, and that's what the Lich King has. So we know that there's this um, like connection between the Burning Legion
Mm-hmm.
and the Shadowlands. Maybe they're at odds, but again, I feel like more of this could have been shown in the cinematic as opposed to me being like, oh, because I read this book, I now understand that the Burning Legion was actually tied to this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that maybe if we saw Maldraxxus fighting against like other threats, like maybe Draka, is seen spying on the old gods too, or is in a place that is clearly not the Shadowlands, I think it would have emphasized the point more for new players. Because to me, it was a lot for a new player to understand a character that they hadn't really seen before, with all these references that you had to do a lot of supplemental reading to get.
Mm-hmm. And
Um,
in a way,
yeah.
maybe that's what it is as well, because at the end of the day, the Afterlives is somewhat of advertising cinematics for the expansion. So maybe the idea is for the new player to not really understand all the details and just get a general idea of this woman who, ended up going somewhere and ended up becoming stronger and more comfortable in what she was doing. Maybe that's the entire picture that a new person has to get.
Yeah. I mean, there are different teams who work on every cinematic, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that like it's still cool to, see a woman that everyone just assumed was like a background character and, a mom that just passed away without much character development. I think it's cool. It can stand on its own, but to me, I think that the Uther treatment was more exciting.
Yeah. Oh, for
Where
sure.
where like even if you didn't play Warcraft 3, we still saw the flashback of, Arthas stabbing Uther. And if you didn't kill the Lich King, we still saw, Uther confronting Arthas with Frostborn shattered and, his final words. So I think that, again, I think that it just needed like a minute or two more to breathe that like Uther had. But, you know, I think it's cool that they tried to do something more interesting with Draka, and maybe they realized that, hey, we didn't really give her justice in, our writing like 15 years ago. Let's make her more interesting. So I think it's good they're trying to change things. I just wanted to see um, more of her, not less. But
Mm-hmm.
it's really interesting that they are fighting the Burning Legion, and it's like, oh yeah, the Burning Legion was actually tied to like the undead as well. Like this could create some problems for us. They didn't just, we may have defeated them in Legion, but their legacy is pretty complicated
Mm-hmm.
and could also have been affecting the Shadowlands too.
Yep.
So,
Maya just
we are
came here. I
very.
think she's interested in the afterlives as well.
That is a very good catch.
Oh. Yeah, no, overall, it's really nice to see Draka be the face of something, and maybe we didn't see it in the cinematic, but I do hope to see more of this sort of family and drama side of things. I guess I enjoy those kind of stories. Like I loved the Jaina story in BFA, for example. So it's going to be interesting to see what else we will see in the game.
Love to see Draka, reunite
Mm-hmm.
with Thrall, and
Mm-hmm.
we see the relationship grow, but Draka isn't just a mother. She's
No.
also, we learn
Yep.
more about like cool things she is doing, but we also see her
Exactly.
interact with her family. So I think that would be really interesting, and maybe we'll get a bunch of cinematics with her in Maldraxxus. But yeah, I
Yeah.
just wanted to see more, and the
Mm-hmm.
more I think about it, I'm like, wow, like that would have been so powerful if we saw Draka defying Gul'dan, and now she is like, sabotaging Gul'dan's plans. Like that's so cool. I just wanted to see
Mm-hmm.
more of that connection in the game,
Mm-hmm.
in the cinematic, not the game. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, I also the color was really interesting as well because the color was also very Legiony with the fell green everywhere. So
Mm-hmm.
you're sort of like, like was Maldraxxus really fighting against the Burning Legion? Was some of the stuff that they were doing indirectly helping us during that, during the
Oh,
expansion?
yeah, that's a good
You
point.
know,
Mm-hmm.
were they like watching us on the broken shore,
Mm-hmm.
or were some things, helped along by what they were infiltrating?
Mm-hmm.
Because Draka died like way, way, way long ago, so they could have been monitoring the threats, when Arthas is fighting the Lich King, not sorry, when Arthas is fighting Illidan, when like all the Warcraft 3 events, the events of the Burning Crusade, there was a lot of time they could have been trying to thwart the Legion. But yeah, like I said, I just wanted to see more of that because it's really interesting to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, this felt more into some of the story traps of BFA where like something would look cool, but then you would go outside the cinematic and you would learn something that would make it even cooler, and you'd be like, oh, if only this was like actually in the game or the story, like it would have
Yeah.
been so much more interesting. So, but like I said, it looked really cool. It was nice to see Draka get development. I just think that there were like missed opportunities because the cinematic was shorter to like really make things more epic and meaningful like Uther got.
Maybe it is because we have more cinematics to look forward to later.
Yeah,
Because,
hopefully.
like with Thrall as well, who's become more active here in the latest expansion, it might just all tie together in that way. Maybe that's
Like,
why
I'm
they made
not
a
saying that I
decision.
just want to see like Draka defined as like mother of Thrall,
No, no,
but
no.
I do think that
Like
like
her other
she had a
history
really cool
too.
backstory,
Yeah.
and it would have been cool to be like, oh, she's in the wild, doesn't know how to hunt, she's sickly, and like now she's being a warrior in the wilds, and now we'll parallel that to Draka not knowing how to be a rogue and getting better in Maldraxxus. Like to me, that would have shown that no matter where she is like training and overcoming adversity in like situations that she didn't expect to be part of, and
Mm-hmm.
she's like thriving based on willpower,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like, wow, she's a badass, like she's breaking that training dummy, girl power, like it just would have added an extra layer
Yeah.
to
Yeah, cause like you said,
yeah.
sorry, interrupting.
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, because like you said, with the story that we saw itself, with her being there and thriving, yeah, she could have been any random character that ended up in Maldraxxus and done the same thing. So not focusing on anything really much in her past is definitely a missed opportunity to color the entire character in a complete way for us to understand her entire picture, not just the part of that challenge, because that challenge could have been. I mean, not gonna say any character, any woman, but it's a little bit, I guess, less personal to her own story. But maybe
Yeah,
it's
like
just the
if we
beginning.
learned
Mm-hmm.
that if she already had that like struggle in her past, then I
Mm-hmm.
think it would have been like, wow, totally different situation. Draka is still, you know, like overcoming
Mm-hmm.
these odds.
Mm-hmm.
Um but yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people were like, why focus on Draka? Like we don't know anything about her. And I don't have a problem with them focusing on her. Like, I think there's a lot of compelling characters in MALDRAXXUS, but like if they did Mograine, he's like Uther. So
Mm.
I can see how that would be like too many pally bros, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and if they did Vosh, it's like, well, night elf background, that could be similar to Ardenweald. I do think Vosh would have been cool though, because she has these really interesting dialogues about how she wanted to stay a Naga in MALDRAXXUS because she was valued for like her intelligence as a Naga, while as a night elf she was just like prized for her beauty. So I think that she would have been
Mm.
interesting too, but maybe they were like, oh, it's too close to, Ashara to
Mhm.
feature her. We already got Ashara.
Mhm.
But like I said, I just wanted more of Draka, not less.
Mhm. Yeah. I think
So,
that's fair enough.
but yeah,
And maybe it's things that we'll see later.
yeah. Yeah, fingers crossed.
Fingers
I think
crossed.
that she'd be really, she has a really cool story in the books in some of like the early Horde novels, like before they go through the Dark Portal and
Mhm.
the other tribes get corrupted. Like her tribe didn't drink the blood of Manaroth, and then they got exiled, and
Mhm.
like she's a survivor, and
Mhm.
it would have been cool to see some of that legacy, um, in the cinematic. How she has always been, protecting things and maybe doing the unpopular choice and trying to sabotage the Burning Legion.
Mhm.
um but yeah, why don't we look at the new subs and then we will talk about the pre-patch.
Yes, I think that
And if you
sounds.
guys have any thoughts on Maldraxxus, let us know. You can ask us questions and we will try to answer them as they come up.
Mhm. I've tried to keep track of chat as well. I saw one question which wasn't really related to Modraxis as specifically, but the question was, which I guess could be a fun little question: is it true there will be less CGIs this expansion, more the sketch type videos? I'm not aware of that. Is it
Yeah,
true?
I'm not aware of that. The sketch type videos they historically do leading up to the expansion. They've done that since
Mm-hmm.
Mists of Pandaria.
Mm-hmm. So these
And
afterlives can be compared to the Warbringers for
mhm,
BFA. So having
yeah,
these doesn't mean that the CGI won't happen, because as you saw in BFA, we had many very amazing CGI cinematics. So I don't think it necessarily means, well, I don't think they have necessarily mentioned that CGI will be less focused on. I think we can definitely expect some cool cinematics during the expansion as well.
takes like a ton of work to do.
It
Like you see
does.
the credits and it's not like, oh look, here's one artist. It's like here's, art director, and here's, five storyboard people, and here's like five illustrators, and here's, 10 3D modelers. This is a huge team effort
Mm-hmm.
to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I would personally like to see them more frequently because I think that it adds a lot of nuance that maybe you don't always see in game. Like the Ashara one made me feel really sympathetic to her, and then similar with Uther and Devos, like it's not as clear cut. Like you're just watching this like very kind of quote morally gray thing unfold, and I think it would be cool if we saw these periodically pop up to explain, uh, expansion developments maybe leading up to each patch. I think that would be neat.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that the cinematic with Uther has actually made me like Devos, and then it's like, I know we're
Exactly.
gonna kill the character, so it feels a bit like,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe not as nice.
Yeah, so I feel like it would just add some depth to later patches, and people really like this artwork, so maybe be good at getting returning players back, similar to
Mm-hmm.
how they're releasing that, fairy tale book in April, and to your average WoW player, they're like, oh, a book. But it actually attracted a bunch of people on the Wowhead tweet that don't necessarily play WoW, but like to
Mm-hmm.
read, and they're like, oh, like video games and fairy tales, like a more artistic direction for a
Mm-hmm.
video game, I'll give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would like to see more of them as the time goes on, especially with how WoW has so many plot twists. I think it would be cool to actually see some of these depicted with a cool cinematic as opposed to having to,
Mm-hmm.
like read the data mined lore book, which we will get to later on in the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like these they have traditionally, like you said, now been cinematics that are on the way to introduce the expansion. So we have these afterlives for Shadowlands coming up. But I think considering how much less resources they need compared to CGI, they could definitely have some more of them during the course of the expansion going, maybe before each patch or something, where they would have a special deep story dive, deep but still quick. So just a couple minutes of a dive into a character that they might have missed out on describing properly in the game. I think it could be awesome. I think it's difficult for
Think
Blizzard to promise those kind of things too, because when something is an expectation, it's less cool, and that's why we also don't know how many CGI cinematics we would get in any expansion. We did have a lot in BFA. Maybe we'll have less this time, but I don't think there's been any word on not getting any CGIs at all. And sorry, go ahead.
to know that, I think that the hyper realistic battle cinematics worked well in BFA because it was, super gritty and not that fantastical. Yeah, we had, the Sour Fang duel and, obviously the Ice Crown duel, but I feel that that style works really well if you're trying to show war and strife on Azeroth, but the Shadowlands is super fantastical, so I feel like the high fantasy art style uh, could do a better job of immersion than trying to do something that looks hyper realistic and fantastical at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially with these realms we've never seen before, uh, it might make more sense to do like a very evocative, interesting color palette as opposed to being like, oh, now we have to create super detailed, realistic character in Maldraxxus who we can't reuse in a future expansion because, they're in the Shadowlands. They're not going to be in, 10.0.
Yep.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think that either way, we're going to see more story. And I think it's also a promising sign we are seeing so many books
Mm-hmm.
as well. And not just like, you know, encyclopedia books, but books that have a lot of art with them. I think they're trying to keep expanding and building out the world of their stories, and they seem to be really leaning into the fantasy aesthetics this time around, which I am a fan of.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. And I think that
So
was it in
yeah,
terms of questions that were related to this. Before we hop into the next topic, let's quickly thank the new subscribers. We have
yeah.
Varakai88, who is a new Prime sub, and Happy Days 0518, also a new subscriber. Also, shout out to Aegis, who's been subscribed to the channel for 32 months in a row. And now we can jump into the Scourge Invasion, which has been quite a topic the last few weeks or so since
Yeah.
the PTR came up. A lot of people were panicking at how bad it is to be in those capital cities while the invasion is going on. And now it looks like something might have changed and there might have been a few nerfs going on in these cities.
So, with the stress test, a lot of players confirmed that it is not as powerful as it was in Wrath and the first version that popped up on the beta. So, zombies now die if they fall from high distances. So you can't, jump off a building onto a bunch of people and infect them because now you'll die.
Yeah.
Um, Ghoul NPCs despawn after a minute. Um, Ghoul NPCs cannot turn unwanted players into zombies, and you can only attack Ghoul NPCs if they are PvP flagged. So they've really tried to, I guess, minimize potential for griefing.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing they did was if you just finish Exile Reach, you get a buff that is called New Recruit, immune to the attackers. So I guess they don't want a new person to be trying out the leveling and then they go to a
Yeah.
capital city and are instantly killed over and over and get scared and put World of Warcraft aside for Animal Crossing or a friendlier game.
Yeah. So this
Yeah.
buff was specifically just to people who have newly leveled. So even veteran players will get this if they create a new character and play through the Exile Reach. But if
Only Exile Reach,
yeah,
not the allied races
no.
or the normal areas.
Hmm. And your normal characters will continue not being immune, of course.
Right. So, what do you think of this? I mean, I understand that with how like the game has changed, with the rise of Twitch and Discord and more coordination, that Blizzard would be concerned about like potential for exploiting, and maybe they wanted to do nerfs, but then they went like too far in the cautious direction, like to overcompensate.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm fine with things being a total mess and chaos during
Yeah.
the things that happen. I would be fine if there were no nerfs, and I would be fine with completely hating the cities and never want to get back because I know it's for a limited amount of time. So I don't think it's a big deal that it's so annoying to be in there because you can decide to go to other cities and maybe go to a place where not many people go to. And I don't think it should affect your gameplay that much. Maybe it's kind of annoying, but I think kind of annoying things after the annoying things are over become fun things. Like, remember how annoying it was to be in the city? Like, I feel like those kind of experiences become positive later, even if they're negative right now. But that's just
I'm
my
also
point of view of it.
reminded
Mm-hmm.
of like vanilla and classic because everyone talks about the blood plague in original ZG.
Mm-hmm.
Like people study outbreaks based on how the virus was handled.
Yeah.
Like people remember that, and that was a total mess. And then even with classic and AQ, everyone was optimized and farming and turning things in, and not many people found the race interesting to watch. And the things that really stood out were, the realm where there was the war to prevent the alliance from turning from getting a scarab lord after the alliance tried to report the horde. Like people remember
The
weird
worst things.
community stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So,
true. But of course, it's not nice if people are specifically griefing others. Um,
right.
but in general, I think having chaos and it being difficult to walk around in cities, I think are okay. I think they can
Yeah,
be
I mean,
fun
if
in
there were
hindsight.
more robust reporting mechanisms, like
Hmm.
that could be a way to, you know, nip that in the bud. If Blizzard GMs or whoever does reports can actually see that there
Hmm.
is griefing or like collusion or something not great happening, it would be great if that could be put an end to, but the people doing silly zombie chaotic things would be fine.
Hmm.
Um, Also, in controversial news, I'm a little sad with this. We have found the gear from the invasions, and they are the Argent Conscript gear. And I'm a little sad because this armor uses the Warfront recolor, and to me, it's a missed opportunity to bring back the undead slaying sets just with like maybe higher definition or another tint, because people loved that like paladin-esque judgment set recolor, and it's really strange to have the Warfront tints, especially because we're beyond the faction war, so why do we have faction specific appearances?
That's also a good point. Because these were only really relevant for the Warfronts. It's not really relevant right now.
Yeah, and like these were just recolors of things used for season 1 and Arathi,
Hmm.
and yes, technically, this
Some
uses,
pieces, yeah.
it's like, oh, it's a different color, and yeah, like the more elaborate versions were in game, but the simple version isn't, so hey, the shoulders are new, but it just doesn't have the same vibe as like, here is a undead slaying set that was used in past expansions, and we're, up-resing it and using that instead. I think that would have been way easier to do. People love those sets,
Yeah,
and just bring them back.
yeah, it's a huge, huge missed opportunity because these sets are not that interesting to look at. They were
No.
cool at the time, somewhat, even not super cool back then. And
Yeah, it's
having
like, yeah.
and having this gear which doesn't remind me or doesn't speak Scourge or Invasion or anything at all, feels like unfitting. Like I'm kind of still hoping that it's a mistake. Like it's not meant to be there.
Yeah, so I mean, I know that people have been focused on like actually testing the zombie invasion, and maybe there's not as much feedback surrounding the armor rewards. And it is nice that you can, gear up a character with this armor, but I just want it to look different.
Yeah,
I wanted
it
to
should.
remind me of Wrath and like the Lich King
Yeah,
and Vanilla WoW, like more
yeah,
throwbacks.
yeah. I want to have gear from this event which will make me look like a Death Knight as a warlock. And I want to look back at it like 5 years from now and be like, yeah, this is what I wear when I want to look like a Death Knight because I was part of the Scourge Invasion. Like so it's more fitting to what the event is. At the moment when I look at it, it's like, oh, this was like some kind of PvP gear, I believe, from a few years ago. And I played Horde, of course, so that's why you see the Horde colors. Or you played Alliance, so it's like, yep, these are the Alliance colors. Um, yeah, it doesn't really speak Scourge.
And I'm looking at the Legion pre-patch event, and there were transmog sets available from the pre-patch event that were similar in silhouette to some warlords armor, but they all had fell green tints. So it still looked very Legion, even if like some of the models were, not totally brand new.
That's a good
And
point. They wouldn't even have to make new gear. They would just have to make at least like recolor it.
yeah, and we also had those weapons. Like, remember, I mean, the hunter weapon was pretty bad. It was like a sewer pipe. But there were some weapons that looked really cool that you
yeah.
could also get. And,
Yeah, they should have
it
given
would
us
be cool to see those
bluish,
too.
like dark bluish,
Yeah.
silvery gear instead. Make
Yeah.
it shimmer.
I know that the Ice Crown bosses drop, like, replica versions of their, you know, early Wrath gear.
Mm-hmm.
But like to me that's not the same as I don't know. I still think that the
But it's still
sets
the
that the
same,
people
right?
sell should be unique too.
Yeah. And that's wait, the set that they're selling, is that the same set as back in the day?
No, the set that these vendors are selling is the Warfront appearance.
Sorry, the ones from the Ice Crown bosses. What do they drop?
The Ice Crown bosses drop how they looked back in the day, but a lot of the things they drop are like they don't really form a full set. It's like, oh, here's a replica of, Wrath dungeon gear, so it's brown.
Gotcha.
Or here's
Okay,
a
okay.
replica of
Mm-hmm.
like an ICC piece, so it looks
Yeah,
like
yeah,
tier
yeah.
10. Like, oh, here's a replica of Malagos, so it looks like a like not next, not tier 7, but raid gear.
Yeah.
Like it's all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the items were filler pieces, like, Northrend dungeon gear was just like, oh look, we're all brown. It's not super,
Yeah.
hype.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we do have cooler models to share with you. So,
Yeah. Have some
sad
other stuff
about
on the
the
PTR. I mean,
PTR
beta.
models,
PTR.
but we've
Yes,
got
PTR.
more interesting on beta to share.
Yes,
So,
this is part of the beta. We are
yeah.
taking a look at the new model for the leather legendary set
Yeah.
with
Uh,
multiple tints too.
yeah, we have data mined pieces of this, and I think the last time we updated was in May, and we didn't have the shoulders or the helm or the belt. We were missing several key pieces, and now we have the full set, and people like it a lot more than when it was, not so exciting.
Yep. And we,
So,
we had a preview of the cloth and mail and plate legendary before, right?
yeah. So
So,
they have been
mhm.
done for a while.
In case you haven't seen them, I'll give you guys a quick peek at that as well. This is the plate legendary, this is the mail legendary, and this is the cloth legendary. So, just a quick peek at them as we just completed the entire set with the leather set as well.
The only question I have
Mm-hmm.
is that the mail and plate clearly use the black version with the red tints, but then
Mm-hmm.
it's like the the leather set is all brown and gold, and then the cloth set is all silver and purple. And all the sets have red and black tints, so it just seems strange that those weren't used for cloth and leather.
Wait, so does that mean that the that specific tint is not available at all?
Right, yeah, right now. Right now there are 6 tints.
Mm-hmm.
One tint is available on the crafted legendary armor.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know where you get the other 5 tints from. Like, we're
Gotcha.
speculating that maybe there's like a Maw themed raid,
Mm-hmm.
or these could be some of the Torghast cosmetic rewards, but we don't know at the current time.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. We have some more models to look at. I
Yeah,
personally really like these actually. We
yeah, these are
have,
fun.
yeah, we have a huge list of Arden wield weapons, which brings us more questions because some of these are tagged as raid, and what does that mean? Are we getting a
Yeah.
new raid which will include these weapons? Let me pull these pictures up.
So we have data mined these models for a while, but they all had names like, Temp Ardenweald or like Ardenweald Covenant Sword. But recently their names were changed to Ardenweald Raid. And they cover like a lot of different weapon slots. And we're thinking it's one of two things. We know there are weapon tokens from Castle Nathria. So is it when you turn in the token to your Covenant Sanctum, the gear you get looks like your Covenant? We don't know because only the Venthyr vendor is up, who, surprise, looks like Castle Nathria. Um, but we're not sure if that's also the case because we don't have similar placeholder items for Bastion and MALDRAXXUS. It's just Ardenweald that has the Ardenweald raid name.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the other idea is that, yeah, maybe we will get an Ardenweald raid continuing the Night Phase story, just like how Castle Nathria, continues the Revendreth story. And going back to the legendary armor, they were all called in the data Maw raid initially, so it could be really cool if we had like a raid on each of the covenants and then it culminated in a Maw raid as like the final patch of the
Mm-hmm.
expansion.
It would be cool if you get those weapon tokens and all everyone's weapons end up looking different based on what covenant they're in. I feel like that does feel very impactful in terms of what covenant you picked.
Yeah, I mean, it's people have said both things like, oh, like I like collecting transmog. I don't like thinking that I'm locked out of all these styles. Or yes, I would like something from my covenant. Like, what am I gonna do as a night fae if I get this, vampire sword from Castle
Yeah.
Nathria? Like, this doesn't match any of my Shadowlands armor. So I can see it
Mm-hmm.
going both ways.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, a lot of those models are really pretty. I really like them. And many, many cool tints as well. They feel very night elfy, so I'm sure Perk likes them too. But it will be interesting
Yeah,
to see if they are simply an
I like the
alternate look
wand.
or if they are, yeah, the wand. Is that what you said?
Yeah, the wand. It's super pretty with like the little butterfly
It
and the
is.
glow.
It is.
Yeah.
Or if this will
And the
be some
harp
kind of
too.
9.1 Ardenweald night favorite. We don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. We have some more new models. We have tabards, which are looking a little bit fancier than we're used to, actually. If I can get these up here.
Yeah, they have waists. That's super exciting
Yeah,
now.
they have an actual
Yeah.
waist look, which means that the art doesn't suddenly stop or look blank around the waist area. They have specific art so that you can hide your belt, and the tabard still looks cool.
Yeah, and the Revendreth one to me looks really nice because it's kind of got that waist filigree anyway. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't want a bulky belt, it still gives the impression of a waist. And I know people like the Bastion one too because it's like an apron almost. So I guess you could be a chef with the Bastion one.
Yeah. To give you guys a quick reminder of how tabards would normally look, I'll show you this one. So as you can see, the belt is kind of like not really there. Uh, so now with these new tabards, you look a lot cooler and a lot more complete. And
Yeah.
it's probably something that
So
we can start expecting with more tablets too, to look more fancy
yeah,
like
so
that.
far only 5 are affected, the ones for each reputation, and
Mm-hmm.
then the gladiator one. But it would be cool if they, did this for more, or went back and updated the past ones. That would be
Mm-hmm.
nice too.
Indeed.
Um, so that's it for models, but we also have to have some very interesting art things to share too. We have this really
Oh,
pretty
yes, we do.
continent loading screen.
Yes. It's so pretty. And I love how the image goes outside of the rectangle as well, with the, as you can see on the left side, the top part there, and then the head on the right side, the weapon on the bottom left. It looks really cool.
Placement of the NPCs is also interesting. You
Yeah.
could interpret this as several ways. You can interpret this as like you know, the characters that are presented as good on one side, so like the Arbiter and then the Winter Queen, and then you have Bastion. So you've got like all the Pantheon of Death leaders, and then on the other side you have the Jailer, who is more of the villain,
Mm-hmm.
Sire Denathrius, who is the raid boss, and then MALDRAXXUS as well. And the color contrast is striking too. It's like white on one side and like black wine on
Dark.
the other.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe not intentional, but it seems like you have like girls versus boys as well.
Oh,
Like,
that's true too. I didn't
yeah,
actually notice that contrast.
yeah.
But yeah, I did notice the color contrast and the characters that we do know that we are specifically going to fight. And yeah, it feels very much like it's intentional and not just artistic, but I guess that remains to be seen, to be completely confirmed. Um, but it's,
I really like the art style. It's very
yeah.
different than the past, which were more
Mm-hmm.
like parchment and more sketch like. Sort of
Mm-hmm.
going back to what I was saying, how they're like really trying to embrace this like high fantasy, very evocative. Like it would be cool to see more cinematics in this type of art style.
Mm-hmm. And it's also funny how the female sides have like, I guess, a happier colors
Yeah,
and clothing and things too, and
yeah,
a bit of shimmer and everything. And then on the other side, you have the dark shadows and everything.
yeah. They all look grumpy.
Yeah.
Bad boys club.
Yep. No, it's pretty funny. I didn't notice the girl versus boy thing.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, it is interesting though. Will be cool to see how each of these characters develop during the expansion to see if they are indeed divided like this.
yeah. And then finally, the last kind of neat visual thing was the credits were updated for Shadowlands. So this was the first time a lot of Blizzard people have been super excited that they can be like, "Oh, look, that's me in the game. Here's my title." But what was also really nice, I think, is that now you can easily hop between credits for all past expansions, and they got a bit of a visual revamp. So they have this like very beautiful artwork in the center as the credits scroll. Previously, it looked a little more low tech, and you could only like hop in chronological order between the credits. But now you can do all of them at once, and I think that it looks really polished
Mm-hmm.
and well done. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives me like the loading screen vibes of how the old ones had that like parchment background, and the new one is this more hyper saturated, very detailed, beautiful, vibrant art in the center. Similar artistic change of direction to the continent screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love these. They're beautiful. And they
Yeah, and like
all
hopefully the people feel very proud to be displayed on this. It's nice that they updated the old ones as well, even if the people working on it are no longer on the game.
exactly, because if they want to take a screenshot, now the screenshot will look cooler with their name.
I had to laugh seeing like Illidan there twice. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, Illidan is the bad guy. His war glaives are facing right, and now he's the good guy, so they're facing left.
Yep.
um, yeah.
I remember when I was
Um,
first like just skimming, I was like, okay, yeah. So save this picture, save this picture, save this picture. It's like, wait, didn't I just see Illidan? It's like, oh, right.
Yeah.
2 expansions. All right. But yeah, no, I think it's nice. I think it looks very polished and modernized, up to date with things of today. And it's also nice how you mentioned where you can pick the expansion that you want to look at.
Yeah.
It's a very nice little menu, and you can just click the one that you want to see.
Brightpaw is really interested in the credits, and he's trying to shake my laptop right out of the range
Why
of the camera.
is my name not on there? I was working on Blizzard games too.
Yeah, he's like, why is the key art not a cat? Why is it Illidan?
Yeah. The next session here, or section here, I believe is a bit of spoilers, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like we get, the way I organize the notes, it gets more spoiler as we go from topic to topic. But I guess for this first one, we should probably put it up because it confirms who died at Teldrassil. And then like also what happens to them. So yeah, why don't we put the spoiler tag up? But these posts are like really popular on Wowhead, so it's a thing that it's not obscure stuff. It's things that a lot of people are discussing. So you probably want to listen to this, but it's still a spoiler.
Maybe we'll wait with this spoiler part actually, because I missed this Teldrassil part. I was jumping on to the next part. I don't think we need a spoiler tag for this one.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So yeah, let's go on with this one.
This is so sad.
Yeah.
So we learned at BlizzCon
talk about this.
that the spirits, the NPCs that died at Teldrassil, were not judged by the Arbiter, but instead were stuck in the Maw, and this influx of souls then is feeding the jailer and how he's trying to disrupt the cycle of death. The Ardenweald story follows what happens to these spirits, and then we actually get to interact with some of these NPCs, and they are a mix of NPCs you encounter in Teldrassil, as well as in the short story Elegy. And it's super sad. Like the one that a lot of people felt really sad about was the Night Elf NPC that gives you your very first quest, like the very first NPC you interact with in game as a Night Elf has passed away. And even his dialogue is so poignant. He's like, for so long I helped guide young, ambitious elves find their path. Now I'm at the beginning of my own adventure. I wonder, is this how they felt, stepping into a new grove for the first time? And it's like, it's so sad how he is still trying to be like optimistic, in the face of death, and is trying to make a positive, like, oh, everyone knows me for guiding people and helping others adventure. What if I went on an adventure now? And yeah, it's just so sad being like, oh wow, like that makes sense why he didn't make it, but it's like the end of an era.
Yeah. It's a reminder of what happened.
Yeah. And then another really sad one is Astari Starseeker, who was one of the priest trainers in Temple of the Moon and plays a really big role in Elegy. She's the one that the lead priestess that stays behind and prays to Elune and sings a song, and she basically her prayer ensures that all the night elves that could not escape Teldrassil, they did not die in pain. And it's like a really emotional part of Elegy, and it's really sad what she says, because she says, when I closed my eyes, I thought the next face I would see was Elune. Thank you for not giving up on us. So like imagine that she decides to stay behind, like die in the fire to protect others, is praying to Elune, like wakes up in Shadowlands, and she is stuck in the Maw. Like it just seems so, like, even if you're like, oh well, like this was 4-dimensional chess, and the night elves were in the Maw to like secretly like help Sylvanas in the future, like it's still like, it's just on a human level, it's just a very sad story.
Yeah, like if you get involved with the character, it becomes a lot more emotional in a way. More serious. I
I'm not going to
see
go through all of them. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I see a question in the chat which is also very interesting and relevant to this. Do we
Yeah.
encounter the "this is fine" Worgen?
Oh, no, we don't encounter any Worgen, actually. There's just 6 NPCs so far that we can talk to.
Because that would be so interesting. That was a little,
Yeah.
for people who may not know, the "this is fine" meme has been on the internet for I don't know how long. And it kind of appeared in Darnassus when the buildings were on fire. And you see this Worgen sitting by a table. Everything is on fire. Everything is chaos. And he's just sitting there. I don't know if he was also drinking tea or if he was just sitting. And then he just says, "This is fine." You know, like
Just
nothing's
wonder
going on. I
if,
wonder if
I
we can
mean,
see him.
I don't know if Blizzard is now trying to, I don't know, maybe realize that they were memeing genocide. Like it gets fun to see a Worgen with fire, but I almost wonder if now they're like, oh, we're trying to like be more serious with our storytelling, and we got a lot of criticism with Teldrassil. Like, let's just focus on like the
Hmm.
serious, tragic aspect, and
Mm-hmm.
not,
Not ridicule.
like further like the jokey parts
Yeah, yeah,
of
yeah.
the story. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think it would be interesting to see a Worgen because they also suffered losses at Teldrassil, and
I mean, that's
it's
true too.
also been
Yeah.
very upsetting to Gen. So it would make sense to see a Worgen spirit there to remind players of their losses as well. But I don't know if Blizzard would. I don't know if they're trying to like forget that meme.
Yeah, 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 I see.
Like, like, oh, in retrospect, maybe, joking about the fire and then dropping the story of Teldrassil for 4 months and like making jokes about fire in our children's book was kind of not a great look if we also want to be seen as like, award-winning, serious gravitas storytelling. Like, you have to pick one or the other.
Yeah, yeah. No, I can see that maybe some people weren't very happy with that specific one as a joke to somewhat ridiculing things. But I can
Yeah,
also see
especially
how
because
it's
like,
maybe appreciated by a lot of people too, because it's like a little side thing, with not being. You wouldn't even have seen it if you weren't necessarily looking for it.
yeah,
Um,
I feel like, I mean, like that joke can be funny. I just feel like when it's such a high stakes quest, like
yeah.
that, like this is like the one quest in WoW that you fail. Like you are overrun, you can't save anyone, and you pass out in smoke and need to be
Hmm.
rescued. Like it's
Maybe that's why
super
they put it
dark.
there, because
Yeah.
most people just wouldn't find it.
Yeah. I mean, like I could see there being like maybe someone is surrounded by like warlock fire or like a ring of fire in molten core. Like I could see it being funny like in other things, but I just think like Blizzard did not do the greatest job handling the marketing surrounding Teldrassil, so maybe they're like,
Yeah.
oh, let's just try to be serious. Like I remember
Mm-hmm.
when they were advertising the pop-up book, they're like, Sylvanas really loves the Teldrassil page. It's so lit, like fire emoji, and it's like, I don't know if this is how you want to be advertising a children's book. This is kind of weird.
Wait, did
Um,
Blizzard write that?
yeah,
Like with the lit emote?
yeah,
Oh
it was
no.
really not good.
Okay, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, yikes.
Yeah, that is indeed a little bit yikes.
Yeah. My eyes are tearing up not because I'm sad, but because there's a fire. Speaking of Teldrassil, there is a gigantic fire
Yeah.
like 5 to 10 miles away from me, and the air quality is like super bad here.
Yeah, if you need
It's
to
like
take a
the light is
breather,
orange outside.
I can't
Um,
even say take a breather outside. It doesn't even work.
no,
But yeah, if you need a
definitely not
moment
do
to do
that.
anything with your eyes, so just go for it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, I just like
California.
everything was yeah. But yeah, you should check out the post. But one more I wanted to highlight that was interesting was Farron, and you might not know who Farron is if you just did the Teldrassil quest. But Farron was Dalaran's partner, and when Dalaran was dying, watching Teldrassil burn, Farron also died in the battle, and his spirit was trying to comfort her, but she was so upset with the loon that she kept rejecting his spirit, and he just
No.
assumed that she died.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes, "Thank you for bringing me back. If you're planning to return to the Maw, could you keep an eye out for someone? Her name is Dalaran. And that's really sad because, like, he has no idea that she was, you know, like, that the Night Elves are Dark Rangers and raised. And it also makes us think, like, yeah, like, what's up with Dalaran now that Sylvanas isn't around? And what will be her fate if,
Also true.
like, Tyrande is trying to figure out why Elune abandoned the Night Elves.
Mm-hmm.
Dalaran felt abandoned. If Tyrande finds that out, could there be a chance of Dalaran's, you know, story continuing? Maybe she, I don't know, maybe the Dark Rangers would join the Night Elves, or maybe she would actually say more dialogue, because her and Farron played such a big role in the pre-patch story that it seems strange to not use
build
her
on
more.
it. Yeah.
So,
And Dalaran was a new, like, somewhat new character, right?
yeah, brand new to the story.
Yeah.
In Elegy.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sylvanas raised her in the Dark Shore pre-patch, and she became a Dark Night Elf Ranger, and was standing there silently when Kalia was trying to reach out and offer solace to the Night Elves that it kind of seems like they were raised against their will, or like taken advantage of by the Thanos and the Valkyr.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think a lot of people as well, rereading the dialogue and seeing the comments, were just like, wow, like, that was an elegy? Like, that's so depressing. Like, wow, like, I'm so upset by Teldrassil again. Like, this is so disturbing. Like, now I don't like Sourfang because he, you know, he played a big role in this. Yeah, he didn't burn the tree, but he, you know, he did a lot of this buildup, which you don't get a sense of just doing the quests. And now the quests are gone. So this was kind of like an interesting reminder 2 years later about what actually happened with Teldrassil.
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of people talking. So
yeah, I can imagine.
I think for this next part now, we can put up the spoiler tag.
Yeah, definitely. Spoiler tag is up.
Right, so we're going to put a video on, and we've talked in the past how we data mined Shaw apparently trying to strongly imply to Greymane that he should be ruling instead of Turalyon. And now we can actually see the interaction in game, including Greymane's dialogue for the first time, and how what we data mined Shaw saying got modified as well, showing that you can't just take data mining verbatim. As you were playing the video, I am going to go fill up my water glass again, so as I can deal with this lovely air quality with the fire.
Yeah.
So, I will leave you to it.
Yep. Let's jump into the story then. Let's see. Wait, did I have the wrong... Well, this is typical. Do I have the wrong video here? It might be the right one, but it's titled differently, and I don't want to play the wrong video, so let me just get this again.
I'm back. Okay.
Okay. So I had the wrong video there, so you actually missed nothing.
Oh. I rushed back.
Yeah. The timing of that.
Do you want to sit in my lap?
Here we go. Okay, now I have the right video. Now we can watch this.
All right. Got all comfy in my chair. Actually got my skirt caught in this.
King Greymane, you shouldn't remain out in the open like this. You're too tempting a target.
If Sylvanas had wished to capture me, she would have done so along with Anduin. No. She wanted to leave me behind. To torment me with the loss of yet another... of our king.
Still, we need you in the throne room. There are matters of state that must be overseen until the king's return.
Anduin entrusted Turalyon with command of our military forces. The Stormwind nobles support him serving as regent and protector of the realm.
I don't question the High Exarch's ability to defend the Alliance. But as a king yourself, don't you think you should...
You and Turalyon need to safeguard our citizens from the return of the Scourge. I need to focus on doing whatever I can to find Anduin and the others.
Yes, Your Majesty.
There, unmuted as well. So that was the little clip of Greymane and Shaw.
We have a Brightpaw who is not super happy because, I don't know, maybe he thinks Greymane is like a dog, puppy, and he is a cat.
Yeah.
But we have a Brightpaw back.
Mm-hmm.
And
Brightpaw is here.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, it seems like Shaw wants to have Greymane take a bit more initiative in the ruling part, and Greymane disagrees.
Which is interesting and also shows why data mining is not the full story, because we data mined Shaw saying, but as a king yourself, don't you think you should sit upon the throne?
Yep.
And now when we have the full dialogue, it's clear that Greymane does not want that to happen because he interrupts Shaw before Shaw is allowed to finish his sentence. And Brightpaw, please. Greymane also basically says that Anduin is like a son, saying, you know, no, she wanted to leave me behind to torment me with the loss of yet another ... of our king. Like, he's about to say loss of another son.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because, yes, Greymane can be a bit hot-headed and hates Sylvanas, and is always, you know, has a reputation for being the one that wants to, you know, go to war, but it's clear that he wants, when it comes to the Alliance, like, he wants to respect Anduin's decision, especially in his absence, and by interrupting Shaw, he's sending a message that he does not want to discuss any sort of, you know, dissension or, you know, rebellion. Like, he just wants to focus on finding Anduin and does not
him
want
back.
to deal with, like, espionage here. Or, like, subterfuge. Like, oh, you're like, yeah, I hate Tyrellian too. Let's be, like, gossipy. Like, oh my god, I wish I was on the throne. He's just like, no, like, Tyrellian is good at leading forces. I'm good at other stuff. Like, let's not debate this. So I was really impressed by Greymane, because when we data mined that, I'm like, oh no! I was like, you know, like, why is Shaw saying this? But when I actually saw this and listened and heard that he interrupted that statement, I'm like, wow, like, how refreshing. It's not going to be, you know, like, Civil War, you know, number 30 in Azeroth. They're just going to, like, actually try to focus on helping each other for a change.
Yeah. So he was making it very clear that he wants to go and get Anduin back, and that Tyrellian and the rest of you guys should take care of the civilians here.
Yeah. And if you're like, whoa, Tyrellian, how did this happen? In the book Shadows Rising, Anduin places Tyrellian in charge of the Alliance forces, and Anduin, it has to choose between Tyrellian and Greymane, and Greymane was a bit like conspiracy theory, like leaping to conclusions and like being very like warmongering, and Alliance Anduin picked Tyrellian instead. So this also shows some character growth where, you know, Greymane was not the one chosen by Anduin, but he's not being grudgy. He is instead respecting Anduin's decision, and, you know, again, views him as a son.
Yeah. It's actually kind of sad to see that sentence where he stops himself. The part that is making it quite clear that he is, or potentially quite clear that he's talking about the son, is the sentence where he says, no, she wanted to leave me behind to torment me with the loss of yet another, and then it says ... of our king, and it makes it really sad.
Yeah, I mean, we also say that Greymane, you know, oh, he is like really against Sylvanas and always wants to fight, but, you know, he lost his son. The undead are always fighting against Gilneas. The Worgen then evacuated to Teldrassil, which Sylvanas then burnt down, so they've lost their like home city twice now in a few years. And now Anduin was taken. So yeah, if you look on this on paper, you can remove the cosmic 3D chess. Like, he has very valid reasons to have an emotional reaction when he hears mention of Sylvanas' name. Like, he has undergone a ton of traumatic things. Oh yeah, we even learn in Elegy, the pre-patch novella, that Mia Greymane nearly didn't make it out alive
Oh
of
yeah, I
Teldrassil
remember.
because she was helping evacuate. So, he nearly lost his wife as well, and she was seriously injured. She was crushed under a pillar. So
Mm-hmm.
he has undergone a lot of trauma directly related to Sylvanas.
Yep. That is true.
And, even in spite of that, I think it's showing a lot of restraint that he was not chosen for the job he maybe wanted and is just focusing on trying to rescue Anduin and not, do power plays or,
Yeah.
make things even worse.
It seems like he wants the best, what is best for everyone in the long run, and not so much, like you said, doing some kind of power play. We have another,
So,
or was there anything else that you wanted to add to this,
oh
or any
no,
more
I just,
thoughts?
again, it's just important to not, what data mining is really helpful. It can give you hints,
Mm-hmm.
but if we just went by the data mining, we had a very different interpretation of how
Oh
the
yeah.
scene could go, where you're like, Shaw is detailing this, explicitly saying sit on the throne, implying that Greymane is hearing him out, and when it came to reality, we're like, oh, like, good job, Greymane, you shot him down.
Yeah. We got the full context here, so we could see what actually happened instead of guessing based on what
Yeah.
one side of the story was telling.
Um, but we also have another dialogue between Talia and Greymane, and he doesn't look. Him and Anduin do not look so great here.
Yep. Let's play this one.
Yeah.
King Greymane, you shouldn't remain out in the open like this.
The screaming cat.
I think I played the wrong one. Give me a second.
Oh, there we go again.
Okay, there we go.
All this time you knew my...
Come on.
Okay, I have to replay that. I accidentally muted the video, so let's
Oh,
try one more
sorry,
time.
people. Brightpaw is being a handful.
No, it's okay.
I'm trying to
This was
move
my
him out
fault,
of the way
not
without him
Brightpaw's.
attacking me.
Uh,
Down you go.
so
Yeah.
it's the right video, and audio should be on. Okay.
This time you knew my father was alive, but you didn't tell me.
It's not that simple, Talia. Your father was presumed lost at the Wrathgate. It wasn't until later that we learned the truth. Dragon's flame had saved his life, but scarred his flesh. And in an act of vengeance, Arthas Menethil captured and tormented him. When the Lich King was defeated, someone had to take up the mantle and keep the Scourge in check. Your father assumed that burden, knowing it would cost him everything. Tyrion Fordring swore to keep Bolvar's choice a secret. He made us take the same vow. We believed that knowing his fate would only bring you pain.
We? Anduin knew too, didn't he? The king told me story after story about my father as if he was some long-dead hero of the past. But the whole time, Anduin hid the truth.
Please forgive us, Talia. We honestly believed he was a casualty of war. That Bolvar Fordragon was truly gone to be forevermore the Lich King.
Well, you were wrong. Now I know my father is alive, free from that damned helm, and no matter what it takes, I will go to his side.
Okay. There was the clip, and correctly done with sound this time.
Job us.
Yeah, the one of the moments that I have personally looked forward to, hearing Talia react to her father being alive. And it's a discussion between her and Greymane, And she is also making it very clear that she realizes Anduin has known about this for the entire time as well, without letting her know, which also implies that she feels hurt.
Twice now, in the Tierra Sound storyline, Anduin says that when the war is over, he is going to tell her who her father was. And then at the end of 8-3, Jane is like, hey, Anduin, she's here. And he's like, oh, I don't want to see her. And Jane is like, hey, Anduin, this is gonna bite you, in the future. And he's like, whatever. And now it's like, oh, look. Like,
Well, I bit you.
yeah. And, Greymane seems sad that Anduin is in prison, but Talia is just like, wow, like, I'm annoyed with Anduin. Like, I don't care if he's imprisoned.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, he told me stories, made me really believe my father is gone, but the entire time he basically lied to me. Is there any coming back from this? Is there still going to be any Anduin and Talia shipping after this?
I mean, I feel like a lot of people are just like, oh, two characters that are the same age and race, like, they must be together. But I think that was more on the fan side because, in
no,
game,
it definitely was.
Anduin is like, I don't want to see Talia. And when you read Shadows Rising, yes, Anduin pretends to be a commoner and goes and gets drunk, but he's not like, oh, when I'm thinking of Talia, he's just like, I'm pretending to be a commoner getting drunk.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it's definitely soured relations, though, even from a diplomatic perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Because, Talia was very helpful in Kultiris and, really helped the Alliance out. And, like, her loyalty has been repaid by Anduin lying.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The only person
And
who
if
would have done it right
Talia,
is Jaina. Yeah.
Yeah, and if Talia is upset, it's not covered in the questline, but you have to think, what is the Alliance civilians going to think if being like, oh, our king has been lying to us for years that Bolvar Fordragon, our beloved, hero and ad hoc ruler of Stormwind, was actually, alive. Like, it doesn't make their leadership look very reliable.
That's also a good point. Questions, do they have the right to question that?
Well, it's just interesting because they put that statue of, like, Bolvar, like the defeat of, Arthas. Like, whenever the first guild killed Arthas, that statue came up in Dalaran. And the cinematic was all, no one besides, the heroes knows that I took up this mantle. And so, and, Bolvar, he was ruling Stormwind when Varian was missing in action, so he was, pretty beloved by the citizens. And he's back. It's very hard to miss him as a crispy Lich King. So you'd imagine people would be like, wait, like, he's back, like, the High Lord is leading our forces into the Shadowlands. We thought he died. Why is he back? So, and it's just, it's not going very well if Talia is, I think she's sort of representing the larger perspective of the commoners that were like, why did you decide to handle it this way?
Because if the people decide to riot in one way or another, at the end of the day, if Talia is okay with it, then they would have to be okay with it too. And if she's not okay with it, then they would feel even more strengthened to question it.
Yeah, and she just offers a different perspective. Like, Greymane's like, oh, well, we thought he'd lose his humanity. Like, oh, we had to do this vow like we thought. And she's just like, well, he's still my dad, and he was a hero, so I'm going to try to find him. And so far, what we see in Shadowlands, I mean, there could be plot twists, but he is helping us. Like, he is, like, the nice guy or, complicated hero Illidan. Like, he is the Magni, he is the Khadgar. And it's like, yeah, maybe all of you were wrong, and Bolvar is, things did not turn out how you thought it would. Like, he, still had, like, a second chance on this weird life, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Talia does go to Shadowlands. Actually, she does meet up with her father. We don't have that cinematic yet, but I'm sure it's going to be super touching.
Or the first
And I
time.
also think it's interesting. We were talking about like Draka as like, you know, a character that was just like a mother and was like kind of one note, and now they're trying to flesh her out. We don't really see much with like fathers that are alive either. Like, you know, Jaina's father, not great, died. Varian died, you know, when Anduin starts coming of age. So it's kind of, you know, Thrall Duratan wasn't there. So it's kind of like
That's
sweet
true.
that we might get Bolvar, you know, Lich King High Lord, now also having a role of a father, which is, you know, rare even for a normal family, but doubly so if, you know, he is this Lich King that people assume could be a villain. So I'm curious to see if they'll play up the fatherhood connections as well. I think that could be an interesting twist for a hero, just with how there aren't very many fathers that stay alive long enough to, you know, raise their children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that does give it a little bit of an edge there as well.
You know, like there are so many like, oh, this mother died in WoW, like, you know, Varian's wife, you know, just dies. Like a lot of them sort of die off screen, and it's like, oh well, we've got this father that's died off screen. I think it sort of like flips the trope on its head. And yeah, I am looking forward to Lich King, Dad, and Talia having a cool reunion.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that actually. It's going to be really interesting. But at least now here we could see some of the emotions around this, because I remember that we saw a snippet of something at some point. Was it when? Do you remember?
And I remember, like,
she was
Greymane
talking about
mentioned,
her dad or something.
Yeah, Greymane was like, you know, lead the orders with the High Lord, and she's like, High Lord, is that my dad? And then they just went on talking over her, and I guess this is a scene that would be inserted. Because I was like, hey, I'm like, wow, Talia just learned about this without much planning. Are they going to do more with this? They should, and it seems now they are.
And there was that other part as well, which I think is after this, where she was talking about it a little bit more casually, and I was.
Oh yeah, when they're actually in Ouroboros, I think.
Yes,
there's another interaction.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's.
And we were surprised why she wasn't that surprised or angry or anything. She was just kind of somewhat casually talking about it.
I think there was a line where she was trying to like convince her dad to. It's funny, I'm like, oh, convince her dad, the Lich King, to
peer
help
into the
rescue. Yeah, so I think she was trying to like beg him to go back and rescue Jaina and Thrall and all of them, and she's like, oh, you know, like, you know, please do it for me, like, you know, you might you know, be this otherworldly creature, but you're still my father, please do this. And I think it's like yeah, and it's like, wow, they seem to already have this established relationship.
Yeah, like, something was missing.
When are they gonna meet? So
it's all coming together very soon.
Yeah,
I think it's like one main part now to tie all those 4 things together.
Well, yeah. Also, just speaking of tying things together, we know that, you know, Bolvar, you know, took on this new role in Icecrown, and now he's back in the picture. His Horde equivalent at Wrathgate was Sourfang Jr., who we saw in several flashbacks in BFA, as Sourfang, you know, had guilt surrounding his actions. So you have to wonder, you know, is Sourfang in the Maw? Is there going to be a reunion between Sourfang and Sourfang Jr.? And if they're bringing back, you know, what happened to the characters in Icecrown, it would make sense that if Bolvar is playing such a big role, that Sourfang Jr. would also come back in some form as well. But yeah, lots of potential to see all these iconic characters in new ways.
If we do see Sourfang, I feel like I don't want to see him early. I want that to like, if it's going to happen, it should happen like later in the expansion. because it's too quick. I feel like he deserves some peace from us.
Yeah,
For some
it's
time.
also like when people ask, like, where would Arthas be?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, we don't want just to bring Arthas back in a cheap way. I think
Yeah.
that's really important for Sourfang too,
As
especially
well.
because his story got built up so much with cinematics, and
Mm-hmm.
there was, lots of nuance, and I think other characters need to be expanded upon
Mm-hmm.
as well a little bit more first. And maybe he's also in Torghast, but maybe he's in a part that is harder to reach for now.
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
Like, I think it could be powerful going back to the Night Elves if we
Mm-hmm.
see the continuation of their story, and we see Tyrande, confront Sourfang again several patches from now, because um, Tyrande was going to kill Sourfang but decided not to. And
Mm-hmm.
Sourfang, as more and more as time goes on, people are like, oh yeah, Sylvanas went extreme, but yeah, Sourfang was involved in this war, and that doesn't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel that it would be interesting if Sourfang and Tyrande had another sort of moment as the story progresses.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah,
even in
that could
Shadows
maybe
Rising,
work. Mm-hmm.
the Horde are like, oh yeah, Teldrassil was bad. We understand why, she doesn't really view Sourfang favorably. He, was complicit in Sylvanas' plan.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I think it would be interesting to have that continue. Not right now, but like, I don't know, maybe if there's the Ardenweald raid, I don't
Yeah.
know, maybe Sourfang shows up at some point with that too.
Yeah, there's just something about how he was such a huge role in BFA, in multiple cinematics, and um, just so much story around him. I feel like it would be too early to bring him back now. It would not feel as special. But maybe if it makes sense with a character like Tyrande, it could make sense. But for now, I'm okay with not seeing Starfang anytime soon.
Or maybe if we confront Sylvanas, like maybe if Anduin gets freed, it's like, okay,
If
like,
Sylvanas mm-hmm.
yeah, like Anduin is cornering Sylvanas, like Tyrande, Sourfang, kind of like, in the Lich King cinematic where the spirits of those wronged by him all confront him at the end of the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it would be interesting if
Mm-hmm.
there was something similar, because they're trying to build up all the Lich King and some, and
Mm-hmm.
Sylvanas parallels for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying we fight her, but it would be interesting if there was if there was a confrontation, if some
Yeah.
of the major characters she wronged or killed or attacked in her past were confronting her, asking why she did things. I could see him coming back in that way, but I don't want it to be like, oh look, we opened a cell door and Sourfang,
It's like, how
is behind
nice.
the closed
Hi,
door.
good to see
Yeah.
you again. I guess
Yeah.
what could also work then, if he would come back in a confrontation of some sort, if let's say the scenario is that maybe he ends up being stuck in the maw or something, and maybe we help him get out of that in one way or another, so that he can reach some kind of peace, and then at that point we won't really see him again. So it would be like a final goodbye in a way. Maybe that
Like,
could work.
yeah, like maybe like he's fantasizing that he's at like home with his son and his wife,
Yeah.
and they're in the fields, and in Shadows Rising Juan Samdi uh presents like this idyllic image to Zakan, being like, oh look, Sourfang is at peace, and then we learned later that that was an illusion. It was just like to trick Zakan into helping. But it would be cool if we had a little montage, maybe when, I don't know, he's rescued or out of the mall, where it's like, okay, he actually finally gets that happy ending
Mm-hmm.
that Ponsonby thinks he deserves, and let him rest now.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
that could
he's at
maybe work.
peace.
Mm-hmm.
His son is at peace with him. They're
Mm-hmm.
both, freed from this torment, and they don't need to fight in any more wars. They can just, hunt in the grand,
Yep.
in the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But yeah, this brings us to our final lore thing, which was
yeah.
very surprising. Lots of twists. There is a book called Enemy Infiltration, and it appears to be written by the Nathrazim, which you more commonly know in game as the Fel version, which is the Dreadlord. And it appears that this Dreadlord is reporting to either Sire Denathrius or the jailer about how they're serving death and they plan to dismantle and defeat the other 5 cosmic realms. And there's lots of revelations in them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and by the way, when I first read about this, I thought it was an actual book, but it's a book in game, which is always very funny.
Yeah.
Here we have a picture of it. This should still be under spoilers, right? Or
I
maybe
think
not?
So, because it's like, you know, I think it's spoilers.
Yeah. Let's keep it at it. I think it's good.
But yeah, basically what we said is that they're talking about targets. Each page then discusses how they're going to, dismantle like Order, which is the Titans, or the Void Lords, or the Light, or Life, or the Burning Legion. And as we read, there are a lot of hints that these are the Dreadlords. So, just to highlight the things that stood out, when they talk about the Titans, they're saying how they were easy to manipulate, and we have to remember that the Nathrazim convinced Sargeras that the Void wanted to corrupt everything, and they sort of incited Sargeras to start destroying planets, which then led to the rift with the other Titans, and then that led to the massive war. And it's like, well, what if the Nathrazim were just, lying to, kind of dismantle the power of the Titans? And like that's what happened. They're talking about how the Titans were vulnerable to fracturing. They told Sargeras that, Void is trying to corrupt things and destroy order, and then Sargeras was consumed by trying to obliterate everything. And you're like, wow, like, yeah, that actually worked. That was, an ulterior motive. Then we have a Void Lord page, and what's interesting here is that the Void talks about the whispers of Ilgenoth, and we've highlighted that many come true. And there's this line that you need to remain wary because they are observant of multiple outcomes and they could anticipate our coming. And it's like, oh yeah, they're actually referencing the whispers coming true there.
Mm-hmm.
Now it gets more clear that there are Dreadlords with the light, because they say if they believe they have converted one of us to their precious light, they will trust that agent implicitly. And everyone in Legion was like, why do we have this holy Dreadlord in the Paladin hall that joins the army of the light? And you're like, oh, like that could be the agent they're talking about. The Dreadlord that has joined the light.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they talk about life, that could refer to the Emerald Nightmare and the Rift of Aln, and like trying to, corrupt and kill Ysera. And then Disorder is referring to the Burning Legion, and there's this to me is really interesting. They say consuming Fel energy is not a pleasant process, but a necessary one. So you're like, oh, the Nathrazim were not originally the Fel-infused Dreadlords, but they turned themselves into that to go ahead with the Burning Legion. And then that ties back to the MALDRAXXUS cinematic, because now we're like, oh, if the Nathrazim are tied to the Shadowlands and they are trying to infiltrate the Burning Legion, this now makes sense how the Burning Legion got like Frostmourne from the Shadowlands to give to the Lich King. They were the ones going back and forth with that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, like these guys are really good at what they do. They are just behind lots of problems in Shadowlands and Azeroth.
Yeah. And this is just in a little book, which is very easy to miss. And it's a huge thing for the lore to be there. And it's causing a lot of discussion too. A lot of people are very interested in this.
There are lots of like little hints as well, because remember, Varimathras were like, oh, like he was behind this, yeah, we're killing him, but now we're like, oh, was he sent to watch Sylvanas to make sure that she went down the path of, falling into this master plan?
Mm-hmm.
And, when we go to kill him and he is warning us, his warnings, he might be like the one nice dreadlord. Like he's, talking about you are blind to the true darkness closing in around you. And it's like, why would he know about the Shadowlands? Oh, because he was part of this mega complicated plan.
Yeah.
And, when he's talking about Sylvanas and he's like, oh, I'd wager you surrendered it willingly or were convinced you did. Like, talking about Sylvanas in charge of the Horde, it's like, yeah, he knew about, like, Vol'jin being manipulated into picking her. And it's like, well, how would he know about this? And it's like, oh, because he has been working for the jailer all along.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you look at the final boss of the raid, Castle Nathria, which in retrospect, it's like, Nathria, Nathrazim. Sire Denathrius has the same, like, male Draenei model as the Dreadlords, and he has the horns coming out of his head, and kind of the hoof-looking boots. And if we learn in the book that the Dreadlords had to ingest Fel to look different, you could be like, oh, this could be an uncorrupted Nathrazim. In the form of Sire Denathrius. So,
yeah, I just noticed his boots. I didn't notice it before.
Yeah. And then even the Ilgenoth whispers, like, it can apply to so many things, but, the line of, like, the cunning ones kneel before 6 masters but serve only one, or 6 seats at the high table, 6 mouths that hunger, one will consume all others. That sounds like, the Nathrazim are everywhere. Lathraxians pretending to serve the light, the Dreadlords pretend to serve the Burning Legion, the, Nathrazim pretend to be giving Sargeras good advice, but it's all to erode the other cosmic forces, and the one master they serve truly is death.
Yeah. It's so interesting hearing you put it all together as well. Like, this is why it's amazing having lore masters here who can, who have a bit more insight into more things, have read more of the books behind everything, and have more knowledge that ties everything together. And because everything becomes so much more interesting. It all starts tying together and things start making more sense. Things that we may have thought were completely unrelated or have maybe not made sense before. And then it's starting to put things together, and it's really interesting. It makes the lore more interesting.
Was like really cool after we were just discussing MALDRAXXUS, and we're like, why would the Burning oh yeah, Burning Legion was tied to the Lich King. I guess that makes sense why Drak is there. Gee, Burning Legion had Frostmourne. How did they get that? And then this book pops up, and it's like, oh, like they could have been using the Burning Legion to, give Arthas the sword. Like, they could have been sort of puppeting all of these forces. And what I think is funny is that they're going on about, with just sort of like, oh, we think our plan's going really well. And here we are thinking we're, super awesome for defeating the Burning Legion. And now it's like, oh, we just, like, the Nathrazim were super happy we defeated them. It's like, oh, we just played into their trap. Like, we helped them, like, weaken one of their cosmic forces. With, like, unknowingly.
Yeah.
And, like, Legion was all like, oh, we're so heroic, we're doing the right thing, like, everything is awesome. And now it's like, oh, this was maybe not so great after all.
Yeah.
Super hype about this, though. It would be cool, obviously, like, this could be a good subject for, we were talking about the cinematics before, like, this could be a cool art cinematic, I think. Maybe not right now, but I think maybe if this is actually revealed in game, I think that it could use a cinematic because it's really cool to data mine this book, but you know, it's a book, and I think
It's
it will
always
look really
nice to
epic.
visualize things.
Yeah, like can you imagine like this dreadlord with a cool accent
Uh-huh.
narrating this book, and as he's narrating it,
Yeah.
the images change to like show flashbacks, like he's talking about the Titans, and we see art of like Sargeras listening to the Nathrezim, and then he talks
That would
about the
be
Void
so
Lords, and it
cool.
changes to like an old god thing with them, and then it
Uh-huh.
changes, you know, to a picture of like Lothraxion with as he narrates the light. I think that would look super cool.
That's actually so true. You could use the exact same text, even narrated, and put in the imagery.
Yeah, I think that would look really cool, and it looked like visually striking because every realm has a different color scheme.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have like, you know, 10 seconds of like super light yellow artistic, and then you talk about like life and it's, you know, green everywhere, and
Mm-hmm.
then, you know, you talk about void lords and it switches to purple. I think it would look really fun. Well, fun is the wrong word, but I think it would look
Yeah.
very striking and lends itself well to an art style in a way that like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
a highly, you know, superhuman realistic art style maybe wouldn't work for this, but I think that would be really cool to see.
Yeah, because
And
it's
yeah.
also, I think, when things are visualized, it's a lot easier for people to take in the information as well. People who may not know so much about the lore can understand it a bit better when they're listening to this while seeing things rather than reading this.
Hmm.
I mean, not
I don't
only
even know where
do
you get the book from.
yeah.
It was just data mined.
Yeah. Like most people would probably never even come across this book, and even if they would probably not even read it. And even if they would read it, they may not understand what is going on. So if you can have this visualized in some sort of mini cinematic or mini is it still called a cinematic when it's a yeah, I guess it's a cinematic.
So,
The
yeah,
Afterlives, is that a cinematic?
I think so.
Yeah, it's a cinematic.
Yeah.
Um, so being able to see this kind of story in a cinematic, I think would not only bring more interest from more people into this specific lore angle, but also easier to understand for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, this was sort of going back to what we were talking about with Draka, how like the cinematic is cool on its own, but when you learn more about her, if you read more of the story, there's more layers to it,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be cool to just be able to see more of that without
Oh
having to
yeah.
do supplementary material. So
Mm-hmm.
it would be cool if there was like a visual piece of media that or a comic or something that could
Mm-hmm.
summarize this without
Yeah, it could
people
even be
having
a
to be like, oh
comic.
yeah, the book we data mined that no one you knows about this actually like, you know, the cinematic now makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think it would be cool. Um Maybe it'll be really cool. I mean, I'm not obviously I don't manage budgets, but I remember with Legion there were like books you could click on and then it would replay some of the Harbinger cinematics.
Oh
Like
yeah,
wouldn't it be
yeah,
cool
yeah.
if you clicked on a book like this and then like this cinematic popped up that's like, you know, images
Mm.
and you're like watching the book come to life? I think that would be really fun.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Because this
All
book
the untapped areas that haven't really come to life in Vision um, would be really cool.
because this book makes you you basically need to buy Chronicle to understand
Mm-hmm.
the different perspective. Like if you didn't buy Chronicle, you wouldn't know what the cosmology chart is like,
Mm-hmm.
or you wouldn't know about the Nathrezim and the Titans way back when.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm not saying that obviously Chronicle was written from the point of view of not the Dreadlords, so you know it was written from the point of view of like taking them at face value, not like, oh, could they be lying? Um, but I think you understand that interaction with Sargeras and the Nathrezim more if you read that book.
Oh, for
And
sure.
reading a book to understand another book
Mm-hmm.
to understand what's in game feels like a lot of steps.
Mm-hmm.
So I think visuals would help.
I mean, that's the thing for myself as well because I didn't read it myself, but I've watched as people have like what is it called, like done like talks on it. So obviously I have
Yeah.
missed certain parts too, which makes me lack some knowledge, which makes it harder for someone like me to understand everything when I read these kind of like snippets of different things. So it's really nice to have more of these things put together in a like more easy to find kind of information, not that requires you to always maybe read everything. I think it would make it a little bit more interesting, because a lot of people, I saw a comment a little bit earlier in the chat, someone was saying, well, let me see if I can find the exact comment, something along the lines of, and they say World of Warcraft lore is bad, and I think most people don't know full Warcraft lore. I think most people know the stories at the top of the layer, the stories that stick out the most. Like in BFA case, it's Sylvanas, Teldrassil, you know, like that kind of line, Sarfang, I suppose. But there's so much more in story in the depths of things when it comes to Titans, Dreadlords, even things like the Void. Like there's so much more to
Teldrassil. Like when we covered this back in the day, it's like Tyrande in game like showed up for a quest.
Yeah.
And like, you know, Tyrande in the books is like everywhere at once, like helping people heal and like healing their lungs so they can breathe, and sparing Sourfang and she's about to kill him. Like it's just way more it's just way more fleshed out in the book.
Which is understandable, and like of course books should give more flesh to things, because that's what makes it interesting for people to dive into it. But I think having a few more cinematics that are similar to these Lorebringers and Afterlives, sort of shorter cinematics, not CGI, more like sketches, I think could give a lot more insight into many more parts of the WoW lore.
Yeah, I agree. So if people have questions, we can ask them. But I think if no one has questions, I can discuss this box, which I've not really opened yet.
Yeah, you can go for it. I think I've been keeping track mostly of the chat. I'll keep looking though as you start showing that off.
It's a board game, small World of Warcraft. It has really fun art on it. Obviously, if you are, you know, dealing with COVID, maybe you will not have friends over. But I can still play this with the cat. And you can see this looks more Battle for Azeroth themed, because you've got like Vol'jin and Tyrande and the Alliance and Horde fighting in the center. And if we open this up, let's see what we got in here. We've got a rule book.
Oh.
See? And super pretty. We've got lots of details. This this page explicitly says that this is the Battle for Azeroth variant of it. And you can basically, you get to pick a race and a power combo, which seems very BFA, with Alliance, Horde, and neutral races. Sounds like Alliance, Horde, and allied races. What else do we have in here? We have Days of Wonder catalog for all their other games. We even have we have more rulebook here. So we can see here that these are the races. And they all have really cool art too. So we can see you can play as like a blood elf or a night elf or a worgen. I'm just looking at this for the first time, and what I think is interesting is it says you can play as an ethereal, kobold, naga, or pandaren as neutral races. So we can start speculating here that are naga going to be a race, I guess. And just to show it again, it's up here.
Oh, so the naga is there as a neutral race?
Yeah, a neutral playable race. And you can have special powers that are tied to professions like herbalist, mining, fishing, but also other things like garrisoned, farmer, ranger, sailing, and they even have artifacts you can get like Doomhammer, Frostmourne, Ashes of Alar, and even the heart of Azeroth. So you can see the legendary places and artifact weapons at the bottom down here. So just to clarify, Small World is an actual game. If you're familiar with board games, you've probably already heard of it, but if you're not, just explaining that. And they just try to like reskin it all for World of Warcraft. And many rule pages because you can play with multiple people. We now have a ton of WoW tokens with their number values on the other side.
Wait, are you supposed to like break them off?
Yeah, you're meant to punch them out.
Okay, cool.
So these are game tokens, and it's actually cool to see like a WoW token IRL. We have more cool things that you need to punch out. We have a ton of faction tokens, it looks like, including some murlocs. We've got lots of things. Oh no, I ruined it.
Oh, it's out, is it?
Yeah, it needs to go back in. Okay, so these are delicate, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can punch them out, but I didn't want to just punch one out.
Yeah.
So we've got more of these. We've got some interesting ghostly night elves and foot soldiers at the top. Oh, so one side is ghostly, but the other side is all colorful. That's cool.
Oh.
This makes a lot more sense. I'm like, why is Turon dead? But no, that's just the back.
Yeah.
So we've got that. And then this, I guess, is the ethereal gnome and death knight, Draenei, dwarf. We've got more of these. These are all really pretty. Like, this would make a great like wrapping paper for WoW.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I think that would look fun.
Wait, has Blizzard ever given out, or not given out, but sold any wrapping paper?
Not that I know of, actually.
I
know
want
for
that.
Hearthstone, they've done some sort of print of all the card backs together. But not that was like as a blouse or something, not as wrapping paper. I like this the most. It has cats at the top.
Oh,
and some sort of, like,
yeah, I see them. That's so adorable.
Some sort of Moonwell portal as
Yeah.
well. And a crown and some monk-like things. There are so many cardboard pieces here. I guess these are mountains and places, and at the bottom here you can see things like Karazhan, Dark Portal, Well of Eternity, and the backs, it's mysterious. And I guess the row above it is the legendary stuff, so you've got like Doomhammer and Ashes of Alar.
So these pieces have different shapes as well.
Yeah, it's super intricate. I am really impressed by.
So
I've never played. One is going to be a mix.
I've never played the original game, so I don't really know how these things play out.
Yeah,
but
me
it is
neither.
interesting to see the different shapes.
Yeah, these are the professions, I guess. This
reminds me of
next
Hearthstone
one,
cards.
The race one, we seem to have lost some of them already. I'll hold up individual ones. We've got.
They're having a civil war.
Yeah. Let's see. So we've got like kobolds. We've got gnomes. I really like the art on these. Like, I think it would be cool just to have, I don't know, like use these as cool images on the site. We've got night elves with Tyrande. It's interesting how she's using her old appearance, not her BFA appearance. We've got orcs.
Maybe because this game was planned way earlier. Because it is a BFA game, and it's soon Shadowlands, so it's a bit late.
Yeah, we've also got Forsaken. But maybe, I mean, Sylvanas is not here. It's a Death Knight. So maybe they realize, hey, let's not do Sylvanas as the, poster child for the Forsaken. We have goblins. We have Tauren. We've got Trolls as Vol'jin, so he seems, maybe this was done a little bit before BFA. And then finally, we have the humans. So, even if you don't know a ton about this game. It still looks very pretty. Oh wow! And now we've got, I guess
Ooh.
these are all your kingdoms.
Like a map?
Everyone gets their own
Oh.
kingdom.
I'm curious
So-
about this game now. I need to
Yeah,
try
it's
it
so
out.
pretty.
I've never played the original game Small World. Was it called Small World?
Yeah, Small
Yeah.
World, and now it's a small world of Warcraft.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe these are meant to fit together because I just came across.
Oh, they're slightly different shaped.
Yeah, so I don't know. Are they?
I don't
I'm
know.
not good at geography. Oh wait, you're not seeing this. It's different on both sides. There we go. Maybe the legs meant to connect.
Interesting.
But yeah, they're different on both sides, so maybe you can play with different map variants too.
Someone in the chat says that they're separate islands.
Okay.
So maybe not.
Well, why does this? Oh, I guess this is going to the ocean then.
Yeah.
And we've got a few more of these islands with
Mhm.
different variants.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally in the box we have storage for all these cardboard things you will be popping out, and I guess this is for the tokens.
Ah,
And
so once you've
that
opened
is
them all,
what-
you can organize them nicely.
Yeah, that is what is in the box. So obviously I'm in quarantine, so I have not been inviting people over to play board games, but this game looks really beautiful, and it seems to be kid friendly as well. If you
Mhm.
have children, you can play with them. Maybe you could even play this online if others have the game, have your webcam set up to show pictures of you playing. You could play this online virtually, and the art is just super fun as well. It's very happy and cartoonish, and it's nice to see WoW get that treatment, because normally Hearthstone is like the happy peppy interpretation of the WoW universe, as BFA was super dark, and it's nice to have WoW actually, the original game, get this treatment as well.
Yeah. That was really nice
So-
to see.
We will have an article highlighting the game soon, as
Mhm.
well as put this back, as well as a special referral code. So like a little portion of the proceeds will go to supporting Wowhead, but I have not set that up yet because I've been doing other things. You did not see the box nearly fall on the ground. That
Nope.
would have been bad.
Not even close.
We will put this back.
I see a comment in the
And-
chat. I love Small World. Now I can combine both hobbies, WoW and Small World board game. Yep. That's how I felt with the Monopoly World of Warcraft.
We don't have that. When did that come out again? That's a little old, right?
Yeah, it's old. I
Okay.
don't know when it came out. It's old.
But yeah, just one more look at the cover. I think it's
Yeah.
interesting we've got the Maelstrom in the center, because that's not really BFA themed, but maybe it'll play a role in the future. And yeah, here is the box again.
Yeah. That's cool.
And maybe I can show a box.
Board games are
Awesome.
great. I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of times we end
Grab
up
a
playing
box
so
of
many
those.
online games, and or me personally at least, feel like board games take more effort, and therefore playing online games is easier and more desirable. But sometimes
Here is the
when
back of the box. Oh, Brightpaw is showing
Yeah,
up.
there
Sorry,
it is.
Brightpaw. We closed up the box. You can't eat the game.
Oh,
Yeah,
he's like, I
Brightpaw.
like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes my
He's like, "I
siblings
like
make me
Fox."
play board games, and I think it's good. It's like a different kind of playing games together feeling compared to online gaming.
Yeah, like maybe this is something you could play with your family when they visit, or more relaxing than doing a competitive game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll put the game away so Brightpaw can come out.
Like I recently gifted a Ticket to Ride, I think it's called, to my sister, and she loves it. Aww, his paw is so cute on your face.
Yeah.
Nice dog.
Good boy.
Yeah, no, it's a cat. I know Brightpaw is big, but not a dog.
He is
JK,
very
okay.
offended he was called a dog. But he acts like one though. His tail is always wagging.
Yeah.
He waits for you
He
at
looks
the door
so comfortable.
if you go outside.
Yeah.
He is over 15 pounds, so he's very big for a cat. Not like overweight. He's just large sized for a cat. He's just, you know, his like paws are bigger. His, you know, tail span is bigger. He's just a large cat. So he's bigger than most dogs. But he's
a mini tiger, basically.
Yeah, a good lightsaber. But yeah, for our final thing we wanted to highlight today, we have a beta access giveaway going on, along with some other goodies like Shadowlands Epic Editions and a solid state drive, which has caused a lot of commotion recently as Blizzard strongly recommends it for playing Shadowlands. And we decided to do something different and let you color in. Brightpaw, you moved my microphone. Maybe I'm louder now.
Are people concerned that you have to have an SSD to play World of Warcraft?
So the original wording made it seem like you did, and then Blizzard modified it to be like, oh, it's not mandatory, but we strongly recommend that you have it.
Okay, to make it clear it's part of the campaign, rather.
Away. Yeah. So we were doing a giveaway for all this, and we decided to do something creative. We made a coloring book page of the Wowhead rocket, and you need to color it in, and you just upload the image, and that is how you enter our giveaway. And it's not based on artistic skill, but obviously you can't just, you know, draw an X on top of the rocket or a stick figure. You know, you can print it out and color it. You can fill it in using the MS Paint tool. We just want to see a little bit of effort, and we've had so many really fun entries. We've had Nyan Cat as a rocket. We've had the rocket reimagined as a shark. We have had so many variations. It's been super wholesome. I love all of the art.
It's really nice seeing people put in effort to enter a giveaway. So it's really smart to put like a drawing thing, and then you can see all the different creative sides of people.
Yeah. So thank you to Blizzard for starting up the beta access giveaway. Hopefully we will have more to give away in the future, especially because it's been going so well. But we are really happy that we at least got to do this particular giveaway.
Because we talked about this last week, how the NA region hasn't really been involved in the beta access scene, but now finally NA is also in. So that's how Wowhead is also able to do some giveaways.
Yeah, it's always weird because like people just assume Wowhead is everywhere, especially because we have so many European parts of the site that are translated. But I guess because like we are always based in North America, like that's where I live.
Because you don't have like a European
most of the
office.
people, they treat us as NA. You know, it's fine. Like, you know, we get to do some cool NA things, being closer to Blizzard that maybe EU doesn't.
Yeah, true.
I just think that your average, you know, player doesn't understand the difference between why like an English-speaking EU person has a giveaway versus not NA, and then they lead to like, ooh, like, are the NA people, like, did they do something wrong? They're just like, why don't these people have giveaways?
Yeah.
Like, are they not cool? So, but yeah, we like our draw color in the rocket to enter giveaway. We think it's super fun. Brightpaw thinks it's fun, don't you, Brightpaw? Yes, he thinks it's fun.
I think he's waiting for all the submissions that have a cat on the rocket.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you want a submission with a cat, Brightpaw? Are you going to submit one? Oh, you're an employee. You can't enter. You can't enter the site giveaway. Yeah.
Funny intro. Funny intro.
But if we do get more beta accesses, maybe we'll do some fun entry on Wowhead Weekly. We just had a certain amount that had to be given away at a certain time, tied to this particular giveaway. But yeah, I think we are about done.
Yep.
Brightpaw is very wiggly.
I'm not sure if you're able to, but it might be time for a high five.
Hey, Brightpaw. Oh, wow. Wow. Brightpaw, I just moved my leg like an inch. Why are you...
Aww. Is he making sound? We heard like a split second of something.
Yes, that was him.
You're stuck now. Okay, no high five.
No, we got it. I think we do.
Okay, we got it. All right.
Hopefully he won't jump. No jumpy. No jumpy, Brightpaw. No jumpy.
Oh, so cute. Okay, you can go for the countdown.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Way, we did it. Oh, and I've got my
Yay.
Pac-Man in the background. I just realized.
Awesome. Such a good boy,
Awesome, and
Brightpaw.
Brightpaw is still here.
No,
He's still with us.
No sad noise, Brightpaw.
No, no
What
sad
is
noises.
the matter? Yeah, he's just
Aw.
sitting on my lap, and he's like, eh.
Yeah.
Oh, he thought that was a cat. Like, he just... No, Brightpaw, I was imitating you. There's no cat here. You can go back to relaxing.
Nope, he's not interested in relaxing. Not yet.
No.
It's like,
Brightpaw, go
I
back
need to
sleep.
make sure that everything is as expected.
Yes. Okay, Brightpaw,
Need
we'll
to
get
guard
you a
this
beta
place.
key. No more sadness. You can have your beta key.
Aw. So adorable. But yeah, that's it for us, guys. We'll be back next week covering anything that happens between now and then. We do have another Afterlives to be expected on Thursday. And so that will definitely be discussed. And maybe there'll be some other updates on PTR,
Yeah.
beta. Maybe we'll know a
New
pre-patch
Shadowlands
date.
build. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah, pre-patch date. That could be something. Although, fingers crossed, not quite yet. Because
Yeah, I
they're
hope
still,
not,
you know,
but yeah.
balancing things, and PTR is buggy. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully no news on pre-patch. Except it's
Yep.
been delayed. No. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, take care, everyone. Enjoy your games.
Yep.
Be nice to each other. Be nice to yourself. Drink water. Eat food.
Yep.
And stay safe.
Enjoy your day off if you are in the U.S. And we
Yeah.
will see you next week.
Indeed.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.